My best friend effed my girlfriend, and all I could do was watch. Using a throwaway account because I don't want this tied to my real account in any way. This story is true, but I had to fill in some blanks because of the alcohol/substances. Apologies if my writing is poor as I am newer to writing. My name is Jake. My best friend effed my girlfriend, and all I could do was watch. Using a throwaway account because my best friend effed my girlfriend, and all I could do was watch. Using a throwaway account because I don't want this tied to my real account in any way. This story is true, but I had to fill in some blanks because of the alcohol/substances. Apologies if my writing is poor as I am newer to writing. My name is Jake, and this all started 2 years ago. I met my girlfriend Chris 4 years ago when we were both 23 and still in college. We both enjoyed partying, and before we started dating I knew she had a reputation for being wild in bed. One night we went home together, and I found out firsthand the rumors were true. I wasn't intending on dating her, but we started hanging out together regularly and found out we had a ton in common, down to our love of nerdy TV shows. Within a couple of months we had begun seriously dating. Chris is a beautiful girl, a deadly mix of innocent and shy. She's pale, but not in an unhealthy way, standing about 5 feet 6 inches, with dirty blonde hair and blue-green eyes that melt men when she looks at them. Her full lips were often smiling mischievously, and she had cute dimples on her cheeks that appeared when she did. She's in great shape, with a slim waist, a bubbly SS, and toned legs. I'm 5 feet 10 inches, with short, dark hair and dark eyes and a good jawline. I've never had any issues getting dates, but it is safe to say that look-wise, Chris is out of my league. People would look surprised to see us together and would sometimes congratulate me after being introduced. Chris often dresses down to disguise her body, preferring sweatpants and hoodies to skirts and tight shirts. She genuinely doesn't seem to know how hot she is despite the attention men always give her. While I didn't know what cuckolding was at the time, I realized pretty quickly that it really hit me with a mix of jealousy and arousal when other men would flirt with Chris, even if it was right in front of me. Much to my surprise, it turned out that seeing her playfully flirt back made it even hotter. Sometimes I'd imagine her doing more than just flirting. I had some existing insecurities due to an ex who had cheated on me with someone in my friend group, but for some reason I don't mind when Chris flirts. It's just part of who she is and I know she loves me. When I admitted to Chris that I liked her flirting with others, she was surprised, but took it in stride. She started flirting more openly and teasing me by sitting on other guys' laps or dancing with them while I was around to get a reaction out of me. We'd always have crazy intimacy afterwards. Slowly she got comfortable teasing me about which guys she thought were hot and would go home with if she were single, or sometimes which guys she had hooked up with before we got together. Things steadily progressed down this dangerous path, including talking about having an MFM threesome or role-playing as her pretending to cheat. We even discussed letting her go a bit further on her own with the right guy, but she scoffed at the idea. For the first 2 years Chris and I dated, I lived with one of my high school friends in a 2-bedroom apartment. Brandon and I have been best friends since the 3rd grade. He was a bit shy and introverted growing up, but when he hit his mid-teens he went from 5 feet 5 inches and skinny to 6'3" inches and a regular at the local gym. He was tan, bearded, and hilarious. Girls were constantly after him, and he often had them over to the apartment. He exuded a confident sexuality that I was jealous of. Even though we were best friends, Brandon could be a bit of a PP. He would unintentionally push boundaries. He wasn't necessarily a bully, but he sometimes didn't consider the feelings of others before acting if there was something he wanted. For example, he caused a bit of drama by sleeping with the ex-girlfriend of someone in our friend group a few weeks after they broke up. Brandon seemed to think that our friend wouldn't care, but the friend still had feelings for her. Brandon was so well-liked and charismatic though that our friend forgave him within a couple of days, even though I know for a fact that Brandon continued to F his ex regularly afterwards. Brandon and Chris got along incredibly well. Maybe a little too well. He would always tease me about how hot she is, asking how I had tricked her into dating me. They would flirt regularly even with me right in the room. She would laugh at all his jokes and touch his arms. I'd catch them stealing glances at each other regularly. Chris knew that I enjoyed it, but still checked in with me to make sure that she wasn't going too far. I assured her that I was fine with it, and that it was just harmless fun. Things progressed slowly over the first year. I noticed Chris was getting more comfortable around Brandon, wearing tighter and more revealing outfits when he was around. She even walked around the apartment in her bra and pajama pants a couple of times while staying over. Brandon would let out a whistle of appreciation whenever she did this and she would turn beet red. One night, Brandon brought a new girl home from the bar while Chris and I were having a quiet movie night. They stopped to chat with us for a bit. The girl he brought home was very pretty, but I noticed that Chris turned her charm up to the maximum, clearly trying to take Brandon's attention off of the other girl. They eventually disappeared into his bedroom. That night, I woke up to the sound of Brandon effing the girl he brought home. She was crying out his name and seeming as loud, wet smacking sounds reverberated through the walls. I felt movement beside me, and realized that Chris was fingering herself as she listened to them have intimacy. I pretended to still be asleep and watched her quietly shake and CM twice before the sounds died out, a hand pressed over her mouth. I should have been jealous that my girlfriend was masturbating to the sound of my best friend rocking this girl's world. But my mind also built the picture in my head of it being Chris that Brandon was roughly using on the other side of the wall. My stomach twisted into knots of anxiety at the mental image, but my PP was rock hard. I struggled to fall back asleep again as detailed scenarios of my best friend taking my girlfriend in all sorts of positions ran through my head. A few months later, the three of us went to a party at a friend's place, complete with lots of drinking and a bit of MDMA. Everyone was having a great time, and when the party finally cleared out around 2 a.m., the three of us sat around chatting. I left to use the washroom, and when I came back I was surprised to see Chris and Brandon cuddled up together on the couch. My PP twitched, but any jealousy I may have felt was masked by the MDMA and alcohol. Instead I jokingly told them I was sorry for interrupting their cuddle session. "There's room for one more," Chris said with a grin, patting her other side. "What the F?"